There's a specific feeling that shows up in retirement that nobody warned you about. Not fear, exactly. Not sadness. Something quieter than that. The sense that you're doing everything right and still waiting for it to feel the way you thought it would. Maybe you saved, maybe you planned, maybe you did everything the checklist said, and yet here you are, and it's not quite what you expected. If that's somewhere close to where you are right now, whether you're already in retirement or approaching it, this video is specifically for you, because what most retirement planning addresses is the money. Almost none of it addresses what makes the life itself actually good. And there is research on this. There are consistent, measurable factors that keep showing up in the lives of retirees who describe themselves as genuinely happy. Not wealthier retirees, not luckier ones. Retirees who understood something specific about what retirement actually requires and built for it. Today, we're going to look at exactly what those factors are, not a list of hobbies to pick up, not a motivational framework. A real explanation of the mechanism, why some people arrive at this chapter and find it good, and why others with similar circumstances find it hollow. Let's take this apart together. Now, before we get into the factors themselves, there's something that almost nobody says out loud before retirement. The job wasn't just income. For most people who worked for 30 or 40 years, the job was doing something much larger. It was answering a set of questions that, it turns out, humans need answered every single day. Who am I? What is expected of me today? Where do I belong? Why does my presence here matter? The job answered all of those automatically, without you ever having to ask. You woke up. There was somewhere to be. There were people who needed you. There was a title that, when someone at a party asked, "So what do you do?" gave you a complete sentence. And the research on this is striking. Longitudinal studies consistently show that retirees who adjust well, who describe themselves as genuinely satisfied in the first 3 to 5 years, are not uniformly the ones with the most money. They're the ones who had what researchers call an identity beyond work before they left, which is a clinical way of saying they had a clear sense of who they were when the title was removed. The people who struggle most in retirement are often not the ones with the least money. They're the ones who had the most invested in the job itself, the most dedicated, the ones who built the deepest professional identity. Because when you retire, the job doesn't just take the income. It takes the structure, the status, the daily purpose, and most of the social architecture of your life all at once. A 2021 longitudinal study of Finnish retirees found that peripheral connections, co-workers, work acquaintances, the people you saw every day by default, tend to fall away within the first year after retirement. The social world that work was quietly maintaining disappears, and most people never saw it coming. The job was providing structure, identity, status, purpose, and social contact. All of it. Automatically. And retirement withdraws all of it, at the same time, without a replacement plan. That's not a character flaw in the people who struggle. That's a gap in what anyone ever explained to them. So what does the research show about the people who navigate this well? When you look across the studies on retirement satisfaction, and there are many across different countries and income levels, 3 variables keep appearing with unusual consistency. Not travel frequency, not whether someone has grandchildren, not net worth, above a basic threshold of financial adequacy. 3 specific things. The first is reconstructed purpose, not productivity. Not staying busy. Purpose. There is a meaningful difference between those 2 things, and the research captures it clearly. Retirees who report high well-being don't just fill their days. They have a clear, personal answer to the question, why does today matter? Sometimes it's a creative pursuit they finally have time for. Sometimes it's a role in their community. Sometimes it's mentoring or teaching or simply being present for people who need them. The specific activity is less important than the underlying answer. Researchers studying meaning in retirement use a 3-part framework: purpose, coherence, and significance. The feeling that you matter to something beyond yourself. Retirees who score high on all 3 live measurably better lives. Not richer lives, better ones. The second variable is chosen structure. The happiest retirees didn't eliminate structure. They replaced the job's structure with their own. This is subtle but important. The job gave you a rhythm you didn't have to invent. Monday meant this, Friday meant that. 9 o'clock meant something. When retirement removes that rhythm, some people float. Not dangerously, just without traction. The days blur, the weeks become interchangeable. Research on retirement adjustment consistently finds that retirees who deliberately design their own weekly structure, who decide in advance what Tuesday looks like, not just what they feel like on Tuesday morning, adapt significantly better than those who drift into unstructured time. The structure doesn't have to be rigid. It just has to be chosen. The third variable is rebuilt social architecture. Research by Dr. Michael Finke at the American College of Financial Services found that among the spending categories studied in retirement, housing, travel, clothing, transportation, social spending had the highest correlation with life satisfaction. Not once in a while. Consistently. And older Gallup data found that retirees who engaged in meaningful social activity for 4 or more hours a day reported high levels of enjoyment at nearly 70%, compared to 44% of those with no social time. The implication is direct. The single best investment a retiree can make in their own happiness is the time and attention they give to other people, not as an obligation, as architecture, deliberate, maintained, replenished. Because the job was doing this work invisibly, and retirement stops doing it without warning. Now here's the part that matters most. Because you might be sitting with these 3 variables, purpose, structure, social architecture, and thinking, I see what those are, but what I'm still not sure about is why it's so hard to build them. And the answer to that is the real mechanism behind all of this. For 40 years, the job was answering the most fundamental social question a human being carries. Who am I, and why do I matter? It answered that question continuously, automatically, without you ever having to ask. Your title answered it. Your contribution answered it. Your place in the hierarchy answered it. The email that needed your response answered it. And then retirement arrives. And the question is still there, but the automatic answer is gone. This is what researchers describe as a psychosocial identity transition, the experience of losing a self-concept that was built over decades and having to construct a new one without a template. Studies on retirement adjustment describe it consistently. The most common struggle is not financial. It's the loss of occupational identity, the loss of the daily, automatic, structural answer to who you are. And here's what the happiest retirees have in common. The thing that differentiates them most clearly from those who struggle. They were retiring toward something, not just from something. That is the distinction. Most retirement planning, the financial kind, the logistics kind, is about retiring from the job, from the commute, from the alarm clock. The retirees who are genuinely happy 5 years in are the ones who built an answer to a different question before they left. What am I moving toward? A version of myself defined by something other than productivity, a structure I chose, a set of relationships I maintain on purpose, not a vacation, not a reward for the years of work, a life. And here's what the research confirms and what nobody says loudly enough. This is buildable at any point in the transition. A 2025 retirement adjustment study found that identity reconstruction in retirement is not front-loaded, it is iterative. It unfolds through small experiments and reflections. You try something, see how it fits, revise. The retirees who describe themselves as genuinely happy at year 5 were not always happy at year 1. The process has a shape, and the shape is available to anyone who understands what they're actually building. If what we've covered today opens something you want to go further with, the identity work, the structure, the social architecture, there's a resource in the description built exactly for this. It's an 8-week guided workbook designed to help you build a post-career identity, not based on title or productivity, but on who you actually want to be in the next 20 or 30 years. Week by week, in your own handwriting. Not a financial plan, a self-construction. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment below. So here's what a reasonable person does with this information in the next 48 hours. Not a major life overhaul. Not a to-do list. 3 questions. 1 for each variable. Honest answers only. For purpose. Is there something you would do even if nobody paid you? And are you actually doing it? Not, have you thought about doing it someday? Are you doing it now, in some form, even a small one? If the answer is no, that's information, not failure. Information. For structure, does your week have a shape you chose? Or are you filling time? There's a meaningful difference between a Tuesday that has a beginning, a middle, and a natural ending, and a Tuesday that simply passes. You don't need a rigid schedule. You need a Tuesday you designed. For social architecture, name 5 people you had meaningful contact with last month who weren't immediate family. Not a text that went unanswered. Meaningful contact. A real conversation. Something that reminded you that you matter to someone outside your household. If you can name 5 easily, that's a foundation. If you're struggling to get to 3, that's the gap that matters most right now. And if you're in the first year or 2 of retirement and all 3 of these feel incomplete, that's not a verdict. Research on this transition is clear. The first year is the hardest, not because the life doesn't get better, but because the identity hasn't rebuilt yet. An identity, unlike a financial account, doesn't come with a balance statement. It comes with time and with deliberate construction. The retirees who are doing well at year 5 are often not the ones who had it figured out at year 1. They're the ones who kept asking the right questions, which, if you're watching this video, is exactly what you're already doing. If today opens something worth going deeper on, the link in the description and the pinned comment will show you where to go next. It's the structured path from understanding these variables to actually building them 8 weeks at a time. What's one thing you had at work? Structure, purpose, community that you didn't expect to miss as much as you do. So here's where we've arrived. The retirees who are genuinely happy are not uniformly the wealthiest. They're not the ones who traveled the most or stayed the busiest. They're the ones who understood what the job was actually doing for them and who, consciously or not, built replacements for all of it. Purpose that answers the question, why does today matter? Structure that belongs to them. Chosen, designed, maintained. A social architecture that doesn't depend on showing up to the same building every morning. Those 3 things, not a destination, a construction project. And the distinction that runs underneath all of it, the one worth carrying away from today, is the difference between retiring from something and retiring toward something. Almost all the preparation in the world is built around the from. The money, the logistics, the checklist. The happiness research points consistently and quietly to the toward a version of yourself that doesn't need a title to know who you are, toward a week you designed, toward the people who remind you that your presence still matters. None of that requires being a different kind of person than you already are. It requires understanding what you're actually building, and you now have that understanding. That's not nothing. In a transition that most people navigate without a map, that's exactly the kind of thing that makes the difference between arriving somewhere good and simply arriving somewhere. One less thing to carry into this next chapter. We'll see you in the next one.